Back in 1964, the Beatles absolutely dominated the US with a single performance on The Ed Sullivan Show. For the following 2 years, they continued to dominate, and even though they decided not to tour anymore in 1966, when they came back in 1969 for their rooftop performance, they once again created one of the most iconic concerts in the history of music. But why stop touring in the first place? I mean, it's well known that most of the money musicians made back then came from live performances, and given that the Beatles were the biggest band in the world, one can only imagine how much money they would have made. Well, for every band member it was different. For George it was a tight schedule, Paul believed that touring was holding their songwriting prowess back, and when it comes to John, he simply didn't like people. Okay, that's a massive oversimplification. The thing is, John didn't like all the fuss surrounding the Beatles. The fans were so loud that he could barely hear himself sing, so even though everyone enjoyed it, he felt like he wasn't performing properly. There's many videos where even in the early years of the band, you can see John visibly annoyed at the screaming fans, often shouting, telling them to shut up.
This is a song. Shut up while he's talking. Yes.
Even after the band broke up, John wasn't a fan of live performances. Actually, the few times we saw him in the 70s was simply because he was collaborating with someone else. But believe it or not, in the beginning of the 80s, when he completed the Double Fantasy album, he wanted to tour, not only performing his songs, but Beatles songs as well. Unfortunately, we all know the reason why that didn't happen.
So before we do our last numbers, we'd like to say... Shut up! Shut up. Oh,